there, everyone. Another bright and sunny day in Minneapolis, Minnesota, and I am so happy to be back home. Today I have been back for a week, and already a lot has happened. I have a new bike, I did my taxes, I did a lot in a short period of time. I've also filled out about 10 applications with more to go in my job search. Unfortunately, the places that I wanted to work have already done their seasonal hiring. So I won't be doing the bike shop, unfortunately. And the place that does sometimes take internships on piercing is not taking any right now. And I asked if they ever take any, but the person hasn't gotten back to me yet, but hopefully I will hear from them again instead of just getting snuffed. The house is not burned down. I'm very happy about that. There have been some things that have been rearranged, but they have been rearranged to make things look more spacious, which I do appreciate. I did have to make some adjustments because some things were interfering with other things, but that's okay now. We had our first formal house meeting. One housemate unfortunately couldn't make it, but everyone got their plans laid out, and people will be leaving in March instead of June, except for that one person who couldn't make it. So I am currently looking for housemates for May 1st instead of June 1st, because when the June person leaves, someone else is already planned to take over their room for other purposes. Cedar Avenue is still the same, crazy traffic, and it's a lot easier to tackle with a bike, but I do my best to avoid Cedar Avenue. Even in walking, it seems to be best to just walk all the way around because of that area over there next to that can have a lot going on. But I have reconnected with my friends. I reconnected with my friends immediately. I posted on Facebook immediately as soon as I saw the St. Paul skyline. And unfortunately, people can't meet right away. We're getting up to the busy time of year. The snow is starting to melt. It won't be coming back. So people are back to their activities, which I'm very glad that life goes on without me. And people are doing their things, and I probably won't. Well, there's one friend I'll be able to see this month, but I probably won't be able to see anybody else until April. That does make me a little sad, but I'm very happy that people have made progress with their own personal variety of endeavors. I've been keeping up with people on Facebook, and I'm just so happy for everyone that they have been doing their thing and people have been successful with their things. And I'm happy that I left because I have things to tell people as well. We have so much to exchange, and that's a very important part of life to me, is having conversation and exchanging things, and I love it, and I'm glad that I have something to contribute in my experiences. While I was gone, the bus fare also went up. It went up right before I left, and then it went up again. I am aware that they added a new program before I left, so people will be able to get secure rides home. I'm not totally sure how that program works, but that's a thing. And I saw in a local newspaper for the Phillips Powderhorn neighborhoods that they're also proposing a new bus line called the D line, which is supposed to be an express route for Chicago Avenue. So the raise in fare, I will say, is justified. However, I was not totally prepared for the bus fare to be $2 and $2.50 on express when I got back. So that puts a dent in my already dented pockets. But I'm definitely going to make it work, and the bike is definitely going to help. I still haven't ridden the A-Line, and the A-Line's about a year old now, but I do want to get on these new bus routes and explore where they go, because that's what I like to do. There's been just so much happening. Travels was just crazy. I definitely have a different perspective on this last set of travels than I did on my first set of travels, which were way more indefinite. And stopping in Minneapolis to live here was definitely not planned. Um, but with the perspective of I have somewhere to come back to, no matter how this goes, maybe I am a little bit more harsh, but taking into account the events that happened, and fortunately having next places to go, um, that adds to everything, like the mentality around the experience also. St. Louis was okay. Didn't particularly care for my host, but we left positive references for each other anyway. Also probably didn't particularly care for me, but there's no reason to be catty. Um, and I also have a friend in St. Louis that used to live in this house, who is also the former house dad. And so I wasn't isolated or secluded. I was in the Gayborhood. There was a nice little cafe nearby with a prepaid drink board, so I drank for free the whole time. Hung out with some of the other people I was staying with, even though they were all cisgender, heterosexual, middle class white men. So we really didn't hang out that much. We didn't have anything to talk about. And St. Louis definitely wasn't the worst thing that's ever happened. I would just prefer if nothing like that ever happened again in those aspects. But having somebody to hang out with that's willing to hang out with me and be in this neighborhood with places to go and not be isolated due to lack of transportation or weather is great. And I say all that to preface Tennessee. Tennessee was awful. Because of those previous I mentioned, I hardly met anyone, and I definitely didn't make any long lasting connections out there because of a lot of the events that happened around the people that I was staying with, and not being able to go out on my own and explore the area like I would have wanted to. Except for Cedar Hills. I do hope to continue to talk to that person, but the people that I met in Memphis and Nashville, I'm never going to see those motherfuckers again, and I am happy about it. I was gonna go to Chattanooga, but the person that volunteered to help me get around out there was occupied, so I skipped over that. But maybe one day I would like to go to Chattanooga because I know that Chattanooga has a very loud-spoken radical community. So maybe I'll go down specifically for their Zine Fest, but Memphis and Nashville are dead to me. Well, it wasn't that bad, but Memphis was that bad, but Nashville kind of wasn't that bad. And I met the person that in Cedar Hills because I went to Nashville, so that's fun. Chattanooga maybe some other time. When help is more readily available, or if the couchsurfing community down there ever picks up and I know that I would have a place to stay. And I also know that I'd be able to get out of there. I could very well pass through on my way back to Athens, Georgia. I absolutely love Athens, but not to skip over Atlanta. Atlanta was better than I thought it would be. I stayed in a shelter, which was a nice roof over my head, and it was a program, so I could leave my stuff there, so I didn't have to carry my stuff around all the time. They did have a curfew of from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. because they have chores and stuff. Like, there's a lot going on with that shelter that isn't ideal for a person staying short term, especially those curfews. But it was also really gross because the bathrooms don't have ventilation, so there's mold and mildew and human stuff going on in those bathrooms. I do hope their remodeling process goes well without jeopardizing the stability of its clients. What I mean is, I hope while they're remodeling or getting a new building or whatever, because gentrification is happening in that area, I hope they don't kick those people out on the streets. Anyway, and I also had a very nice host out there that lived outside the city, but that was fine because I was only there for a few days. And I feel like I saw everything I wanted to see while I was able to be in the shelter that wasn't too far from Midtown, which wasn't too far from downtown. The bus fare out there is almost $3. And Sublime Doughnuts. That's that's the highlight of everything. Sublime Doughnuts. The one I went to was the one in West Side between the Georgia Tech, I believe, and the Shelter. Best donut place in town, open 24/7. Go get you some delicious. Then we're gonna go into Atlanta. Unfortunately, Atlanta did not have a Sublime Doughnuts, but it's as woke as Georgia can be. They're not too much up on the gender stuff. And what really got me about going through the Southeast saying that is I forgot that gender labeled single stall restaurants was a thing. There's no reason to gender single stall restrooms. I mean, of course, I went into the restroom that wasn't occupied because it's not like anyone else was in there. But it's a deterrent for the average single-minded cis person. If it's empty, just go in. That little sign up there is not a little force field in Star Trek that's gonna block you because of your presentation of genitalia. I promise. And Athens is like 90% college. Like, the map that I had was like University of Georgia was like this, and then downtown was like this, and then everything else around it. But they have the campus shuttles that are actually free to the public, which is a great extension on the public transportation that they have. And the botanical garden is free, so you can get on the free shuttle to go to the free botanical garden. Something that I wish I had known before I went out there was that you can call in advance and ask the shuttle to take you all the way on into the botanical garden, because Google gave me the directions saying it was only a 15-minute walk from the bus stop to the botanical garden. So I did that 15-minute walk. It only takes you to the entrance of the botanical garden. The entrance and where the office is and the actual botanical garden is probably another 30-minute walk. So, yeah. But now you know. If you want to go to the botanical garden on the campus shuttle, call them in advance and ask them to take you on into the botanical garden. You don't do that 45-minute feeling walk. And I learned great places to fly signs, and I just had like a really great time in general because I met a lot of people, and I spent a little bit of time there in a shelter as well, but it was a really nice shelter. And then I went to Savannah. Savannah is beautiful. The way that they did that part of the area on the river looks kind of beat up, like it's a wannabe Boston. But the rest of it is lovely, especially those trees and the way they have the flowers set up, and it's really lovely. It's a tourist town. It has a college, but it's very focused on old white, upper middle class, at least retired tourists. So I was only there for a day. You can see it all in a day, and then went back to Athens. I stayed with a very nice person there, only for one night, and then I got a host back in Athens. Stayed there for a few days, and my host there was so kind as to offer me a ride up the east and drop me off in Richmond, while that group went on to DC to party hard. Hated Richmond. Went to Pittsburgh. Loved Pittsburgh as usual. Pittsburgh heals all wounds. Like, I ran out of money in Tennessee, and I actually ended up getting stranded in Tennessee. And Richmond was terrible for a variety of reasons. It's very boring. I also ran into a bro, and Steel City just has my heart. Like, everything wrong was right again. I stayed with a generous artist, and we hung out, and then there's just a lot of art to go around. Like, Pittsburgh is not shy about displaying its art. There's literally art everywhere, which is something that I really find missing in Minneapolis. In Minneapolis, things are very sectioned, like in more of an organized type of way. Whereas everything is just everywhere in Pittsburgh, and it's just not hard to get to this thing because it's like literally like on this strip here that is in your neighborhood. Oh, that's been my perspective of Pittsburgh, inner city Pittsburgh. To me, it's just a town that just isn't missing anything. And I also miss being able to hang out at the queer clubs. Here, the queer club scene isn't very safe because the clubs downtown have a very bad reputation of being transphobic and the security guards being excessively violent. Whereas I first got into socializing in Colorado Springs at a lounge that I think it was called the Underground Lounge, and I do hope that it's still there. Where it was a lounge, things were calm, people drink, they had shows, they had games. I loved it, and I feel bad. I feel like something is missing from not being able to socialize because I feel unsafe. And really, those are the only clubs that I know of in Minneapolis. So that would definitely be something that I would trade off. And I did ask the person I was staying with, what was the scene like out in Pittsburgh, and it was said that it can be competitive, but people are competitive, so that's fine. But my concern is like, how violent is it? Like, I just want to hang out, and not worry about somebody doing anything. I mean, not that, you know what I'm saying. I don't want the scene to be known for being bad. Even though bad things can happen anywhere, blah, blah, blah. But it is good to be home, and this video has already gone on for about 15 minutes. And, after all that, I'm just so glad to be back home. And, I'll have a room soon, come May, but until then, I'm either in the couch or on the basement or something. But I'm not worried about that. I'm just so happy to be home. Like, all that shit was so wild. So y'all take care of yourselves and each other. Punch Nazis and kill your local rapists.